I am going to solve rugby. Big words, I know. And I've got some ideas. I was just thinking as I was out on this walk, what would I do if I was handed the reins of the sport? What could be changed by tomorrow that would make the sport better? And yeah, guilty, I'm a rugby nerd. That's the kind of thing that my brain does when I'm out on a walk like this. And so I thought, rather than just having the thought in my own head, I will share it with you. And you can add to it with your own thoughts, or shoot down some of my thoughts, because that is how the best ideas happen, isn't it? Is when you critique and build on and make better someone else's ideas. So broadly speaking, my thoughts here are no more law changes, get rid of laws we're not using, get rid of some of the new laws we've introduced, and I've got a couple of mad ideas at the end as well. So that's the little summary of what's in my head. And like I say, I'd love to know your thoughts. Get stuck in down below. I'm currently in, well, as you can see, I'm deep in the forest. This is Deep Valor in the Garden Route National Park. It's such a hot day today, bright sunshine, and I've got pasty English skin straight from an English winter. So I thought I probably shouldn't stay in the sun all day today, but I don't really like lying on a sunbed for hours on end either. So I thought, I know, I'll go take some shade in the forest canopy. And it's absolutely beautiful here. And one thing I love about South Africa, am I going the right way? I think I am. I think this is still a track. One of the things I love about South Africa is it makes you feel small in a really good way, insignificant. When you're walking past trees that are hundreds of years old, there's some massive ones in this forest, and you look out and you can hear noises, and you're sort of aware there's hundreds, maybe even thousands of eyes on you, and I can't see any of them. Just reminds you you're small. And I like that. Coming from a city, you can sometimes get, I don't know, too bogged down in the small minutiae. So anyway, back to rugby. Point number one, no more law changes. First thing I would do if I was in charge, I don't know, what should we say, 5 years? 5-year moratorium on law changes, no new ones allowed to be added. And just leave the coaches and the players to work it out. Because they are the smart ones. They are the best people to run our game, are the guys that are out there doing it. And we always credit, like, well, I'm here in South Africa, you credit Rassie Erasmus with being a great innovator. Let him innovate. Let the coaches and the players work it out. Because when rugby is left alone, it is a beautiful process of action and reaction. And when you meddle with that, you kind of meddle in with the natural order of things. So just leave them alone. Stop it. Stop making law changes. Stop tinkering. There's a great example of that, actually. This happened recently. The law that was brought in added to make sure there's a contest in the air allowable. And I like the principle of it. Everything should be a contest in rugby, so I get that. But they made sure no players could block the guy chasing through, escort runners, whatever the case is, you know the one I'm talking about. And that's great, that makes sense. It's making everything a contest. The law of unintended consequences came into play, and I don't know if World Rugby really banked on this happening, but what happened is the box kicks come right back into fashion. I mean, it never really fully went away, but 2018, 2019, it was like peak box kick, wasn't it? And that's how the Box won the World Cup, with a simple but very effective game plan. Territorial, kicking first. And obviously the scrum. Let's not forget that. But then what happened after 2019 is that teams went away and thought, we've got to come up with a plan to try and combat this. And and we've seen it in recent years, Argentina coming up with a way of playing on transitions. When there's a loose kick, how can they play on the counter-attack from deep? France, exactly the same. And that meant that people started to go away from the box kick. And teams are starting to play from deeper, recognising the opportunities when they're receiving a kick. So, like I say, World Rugby got involved, meddled with the natural order of things, which would kind of work itself out if left alone. So, no new laws would be my first rule. Not for 5 years and without a lot of trialling first. And I do have a mad idea of a law, which I'll share with you at the end. A brief interruption to the video as I've got back from the walk, having a lovely Brannus and Coke. Yes, I know the glass isn't big enough and it should be full of ice, but that'll do nicely. Thank you very much. So yeah, spoiler alert, I got out of the forest okay, and I'm having an amazing time. Sat on my balcony here at the Plett Quarter Hotel, overlooking the ocean, and I thought I'd just remind you that you can take advantage of a brilliant offer with Lion Roar's Hotels. 12% off of your next booking if you use the code EggChasers2026 and book direct. I'll leave a link in the description. Awesome offer, and I know there's loads of England fans that have been asking me about my trip to South Africa and where they should go. Lion Roar's Hotels take care of you from Cape Town right along the garden route through the winelands, if you want to go to the mountains, if you want to go to safari even, and yes, of course, if you want to come to the ocean. And yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're in South Africa, around the world, you can use that code EggChasers2026 for 12% off at lionroars.com. Link in the description. Right, back to the video and my mad ideas. Second principle, get rid of laws that we're not using. There are so many, more than you think. And what's one thing you hear about rugby a lot? And it's true, you hear people saying how complicated rugby is. And it is. If you're a new fan and you don't know the laws of the game, it's really hard to get your head around. And so get rid of the ones that we're not using. Make it simpler, make it as simple as possible. You know that Doge thing that happened in America earlier this year? Don't worry, I'm not going into politics, I'm not going there. But the principle of it, where stripping away things that aren't needed. Let's do that with rugby and the law book. For example, straight feeds at scrum time. Use it or lose it. Either it's in the law book that you're meant to have a straight feed, or at least remotely straight at scrum time, but the referees do not enforce that law. And my thought would be, use it or lose it. Make scrum halves put the ball in straight, or take it out of the law book. Don't have the situation we have at the minute, where it's technically a law, but we just don't decide to apply that law. But then you go to lower levels of the game, and some referees are really picky on that law. And then kids watch the telly and go, huh? But that scrum half's just put it straight to the number 8's feet. And I think the reason World Rugby don't enforce that law is because it would make the scrum even more dominant. Well, fine, but then stop pretending that that's the law. Make it clear. We've actually got a situation in France, funnily enough. In domestic French rugby, you have to put the ball in straight as of this season. A credible scrum feed, I think is how they've termed it. And so the referees are actually enforcing that law. I would suggest World Rugby does the same thing, but if it doesn't, get rid of it. And another one, players on their feet at rucks. How many times do you see it where players actually behave the way the law says they should behave, with players on their feet and hips below shoulders? Never happens. Players are constantly going off their feet, which is fine. I get it. These are men moving at dynamic speeds, massive men. So I'm not saying all players should be on their feet and hips below shoulders. What I'm saying is that's what the law book says. But if that's not how the game is, take it out the law book. Sorry, I had to stop then for a second because I just went the wrong way. Got to the end of the trail. I need to head back to my car that way, not that way. Where was I? Yeah, number 1 principle, no more law changes. Maybe 5 years. Number 2 principle, get rid of the laws that we're not actually applying, that are in the law book to make everything simpler. And number 3, get rid of some of the laws that we have introduced in recent years. For example, top of my list, and the one that I would get away with in a heartbeat tomorrow, goal line dropout from being held up over the line. Just doesn't feel right. It's not the right balance. And I'd get rid of it in a heartbeat. It was brought over from Rugby League. And in fairness, so was the 50-22 law. And that's been brilliant, because that adds a bit of tactical nuance in rugby that wasn't there before. You have teams worried about the threat of a 50-22, so they drop players back. And that means there's opportunities for teams to go wide early and attack from deep if they drop everyone in the backfield. So I love that one. Goal line dropout, not so much. It just doesn't feel like the right reward for an attacking team getting that close to scoring. Is to be that far back on the pitch. I've said this for months, years, I'd get rid of it. And I miss 5 metre scrums as well. It's one of the things I said after the Ireland-South Africa game is how enjoyable the 5 metre scrums were, because you hardly ever see them now. And we saw loads in that match. And you would get more 5 metre scrums as a consequence. But I also understand why World Rugby brought it in, and maybe there's a compromise where it could be a free kick on the 5 or a scrum or a free kick. Attacking team can choose 10 metres out, I don't know. But maybe you can suggest an idea. And what other laws that have been introduced would you get rid of? And then finally, I said I had a mad idea of my own, and this is a little bit radical, I accept. But what about no knock-ons? You would have deliberate knock-ons, so you couldn't deliberately knock the ball on, but accidental knock-ons, get rid of them. I'm not saying I want to introduce it, because I've already said no new law changes for at least 5 years, but that would give us 5 years to trial it. I'd be fascinated to know what it looks like, you know. And I can't claim credit for this idea. It was an idea, a good friend of mine, on my audio podcast, also called Egg Chasers. He came up with it about 10 years ago. And at first, when I heard it, it was like, this is mad. This idea is crazy. What are you talking about? And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, it could work. Because teams don't deliberately knock the ball on, do they? And when you do deliberately knock it on, that's a penalty. But other knock-ons, there's no advantage to an attacking team losing possession of the ball. So what would happen is if someone spilled it, it was just a contest for the ball on the floor, play on. Just a thought. You might be able to carve out caveats where if you scored a try directly from the knock-on, it wouldn't be allowed. And look, I'm fully aware, if it's the first time you've heard that crazy idea, you will probably think, Tim, you're absolutely insane. What on earth are you talking about? I accept. Just sit with it. It's not so mad after all, you know. And I wonder what sort of game it would lead to. I think ball in playtime would go through the roof. And I think it might lead to a flowing game that you might quite enjoy. Just a thought. If you've got any other madcap ideas, this would be the moment, this would be the place. Feel free to shoot my one down, but let me know what you think in general. So what was that in summary? Number 1, no more new law changes. Number 2, get rid of laws we're not using. Number 3, get rid of some of the laws we've introduced. And then number 4, I don't know, if we are going to change laws in 5 years' time, let's start thinking of mad ideas that we could actually trial between now and then. There you go. That is my application for the Department of Rugby Efficiency. And I'll see you on the next video.